Hey, everyone, and welcome. Have you ever had that feeling, that nagging thought that the world you see isn't the whole story? Well, today, we're going to dive deep into some of life's biggest questions. We're talking about reality, perception, and the very nature of the soul. We're basically going on a journey to the very edge of what we all think is real.
And let's just start with the biggest question of them all, the one that kind of sits underneath everything else. It sounds so simple, right? But the more you poke at it, the more it all just seems to unravel. So, really, what is real? What can we even use as a measuring stick besides our own, flawed perception?
All right, part one, the edges of reality. Let's start with the absolute basics. I want you to just look around the room you're in. Everything you would call real, it all shares this one strange hidden property. And once you see it, well, it reveals this fundamental paradox right at the heart of everything.
Okay, so here's the core observation. Every single thing we can point to and say, yep, that's real, is limited. It's bounded. It takes up a certain amount of space, and it exists for a certain amount of time. It has edges. Seriously, think about it for a second. Can you name a single real thing that doesn't have a beginning and an end?
But, and this is a huge but, there's one possible exception to this rule: the universe itself. The whole shebang. And this creates a massive problem for us, because either the universe has an edge, which just makes you ask, well, what's on the other side of that? Or it's infinite, a quality that literally nothing else we call real seems to have. And we're not the first to get stuck on this. The philosopher Immanuel Kant called this a great antinomy. He basically argued that we can't solve it, not because we're not smart enough, but because our minds are literally built out of the concepts of time and space. We're trying to look beyond the very thing we're looking with. It's like trying to see your own eyeballs. We're sealed inside the very system we're trying to examine. Okay, so this cosmic paradox, it isn't just something out there with the stars and galaxies. It actually has a mirror image right here, inside our own consciousness. The problem of infinity isn't just an external one, it's an internal one too. Which of course brings us to the next big question. If our brains, our minds, our consciousness, if they are limited, finite instruments, how could they ever possibly perceive a reality that is unlimited and infinite? It's kind of like trying to pour the entire ocean into a tiny teacup. The scales are just completely wrong. Now, while there's no single test that proves anything for sure, humanity has come up with some really thoughtful ways to get at this. First, you can judge an experience by its fruits. The real lasting positive change it makes in a person's life. You can also look at how mystics from totally separate cultures and times describe these eerily similar experiences. And sometimes you figure out what something is by first figuring out everything that it is not. So, this leads to a really beautiful and crucial idea. Maybe our finite minds don't see the absolute directly. I mean, that would probably be impossible, right? Like staring straight at the sun. Instead, maybe we just see its reflections. And you know what? Even a reflection carries the light of the original. A reflection of the sun, after all, is more than enough to light up a whole dark room. And this whole idea of reflections, it brings us to a pretty radical hypothesis. It's one that really tries to build a bridge over that gap between the finite person doing the perceiving and the infinite thing being perceived. So let's think about this for a second. If the body eventually dies and our personality is changing all the time, then who exactly is the traveler here? Who is the one doing all this perceiving and learning over the years? Who is the you that's on this journey? Well, a lot of Eastern traditions have an answer for this: the Jiva Atma, or the individual soul. The concept is so simple but really profound. Think of the space inside a clay pot. It seems separate, but it's the exact same air as the space outside the pot, isn't it? The pot just creates a temporary boundary. In this view, our soul is like that space, and our body is just the pot. And get this, the journey of that soul isn't just one short lifetime. The hypothesis here is punarjanma, or what we call rebirth. The idea is that this individual soul, this jivatma, it keeps going through many bodies, across many lifetimes, in this huge, grand cycle of learning, forgetting, and then slowly remembering what it really is. Okay, now I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like pure philosophy, maybe some far-out metaphysics. But what is absolutely fascinating is that there is a surprising and very serious body of research that has looked into this exact possibility. And listen, this research isn't from some fringe website or dusty old book. It was pioneered at a major American university, the University of Virginia School of Medicine, by a guy named Dr. Ian Stevenson.
He was a psychiatrist who, using really rigorous methods, started documenting cases of very young kids who would just spontaneously start remembering details from lives they had never lived. Let's just look at one of the most compelling modern cases to make this real. A little boy named James Leininger, just 2 years old, starts having these absolutely terrifying nightmares. He would be thrashing in his sleep, screaming things that no toddler should know. Things like, plane on fire, little man can't get out. And the details he gave were just astonishingly specific. He said he flew a type of plane called a Corsair. He said he flew it off an aircraft carrier named the Natoma. He even named a friend on the boat, a guy named Jack Larson, and he said he was shot down at Iwo Jima. Now remember, we are talking about a 2-year-old child. Well, his father, who was deeply religious and wanted to prove this was all nonsense, started investigating. And what he found completely shook him to his core. Every single detail was confirmed. There really was a USS Natoma Bay. A pilot named Jack Larson really did serve on it. And a pilot named James Huston Jr. was killed at Iwo Jima when his Corsair was hit in the engine, exactly as this little boy described.
And the Leininger case, believe it or not, is not a one-off thing. The Division of Perceptual Studies at UVA, which continues Dr. Stevenson's work to this day, has now investigated over 2,500 similar cases from all over the world. Now, you can disagree with the conclusion, for sure, but the data itself is, well, it's pretty hard to just ignore.
So if we just entertain this idea for a minute, this idea of a journey across multiple lives, what are the rules of the road? What are the mechanics that actually govern this long, long trip?
This brings us to karma, but we really need to reframe the way most of us think about it. It's not some cosmic judge keeping score of all your good and bad deeds. In its classical sense, karma is much more like a law of physics. It's an impersonal, totally neutral, universal law of cause and effect. Actions create consequences, not because some judge says so, but because that's just how reality is structured.
I love this way of putting it. The universe is not angry at the stone. Think about that. If you throw a stone up in the air, it comes back down because of gravity. The universe isn't mad at the stone. It's not punishing it. It's just physics. And karma is said to work in exactly the same way, an impersonal unfolding of consequences based on previous actions.
So wow, we have journeyed from the edges of the cosmos all the way into the nature of the soul. We've explored this idea that our journey might be way longer than just one life, and that it's governed by these impersonal, physical-like laws. So that leaves us with one final and I think really provocative question to take with you. If all the events in your life are not just random noise, but a kind of curriculum designed just for you, what is it that your life is trying to teach you?